Peter the Great, the history of Russia's first ironclad battleship. Foreword, the age of armor and steam. Quote, 1. Chapter 1, Origins and Prerequisites, Lessons of the Crimean War. Quote 2, First Steps of Russian Armored Shipbuilding. Quote 3, The American Monitor, Mi Antonimo, A Spark of Inspiration. Quote 4, Chapter 2. The Genius and His Idea, Andrei Alexandrovich Popov, The Man and the Dream. Quote 5, The Monitor Cruiser Concept. Quote 6, Design Competition, and Popov's Victory. In 1867, the Naval Ministry announced a competition for the design of a seaworthy monitor. Among the several projects submitted, Popov's design was the winner. Despite limited naval budgets, Grand Duke Admiral General Konstantin Nikolaevich personally obtained permission from Emperor Alexander II to begin immediate construction of the ship. Thus, the project of the ship, initially named Cruiser, was born. Chapter 3. Birth of a Giant Choice of Shipyard and Start of Construction. May 20th, 1869, St. Petersburg, the Galerniy Island Shipyard. Here, at this historic site where ships were built even for Peter I, construction began on the largest ship in the history of the Russian fleet. The builders appointed were naval engineers M.M. Okunev and A.E. Leontiev. The problem was obvious. Russia had never built ships with a displacement of around 10,000 tons. Import substitution, Tsarist style. Emperor Alexander II issued a historic decree. All orders from both the War Ministry and the Ministry of Transport, as well as from other departments, shall be carried out within the state, regardless of any difficulties or inconveniences. This was a bold step, considering that until 1865, almost all iron for shipbuilding was supplied from England. Russian factories, the Kama and Izhora plants, had to learn to produce steel iron plates. Problems and solutions. Construction immediately faced difficulties. The Galerniy Island Shipyard had never built ships of this size. The boathouse had to be extended, new machine tools purchased, and workshops expanded. In May 1869, the fabrication of the first frames began. In June, the keel was laid. On July 11, 1870, the official keel-laying ceremony for the Ironclad took place, although work was already in full swing. Renaming in honor of Peter the Great. On May 30, 1872, on the 200th anniversary of the birth of Peter I, the ship under construction received a new name, Peter the Great. It was symbolic. The ship meant to prove Russia's ability to create the world's best warships was named after the Tsar reformer who had founded the Russian fleet. Chapter 4. Design and Technology. Technical Specifications. Peter the Great was a true giant of its time. Displacement, 9,665 tons designed, 10,406 tons actual length, 103.5 meters, beam, 19.2 meters. Draft, 8.28 meters. Engine power, 6,300 horsepower. After replacement in 1881, 8,296 horsepower. Speed, 12 knots. After modernization, 14.36 knots. Crew, 440 officers and sailors. Armor, an impregnable fortress. Peter the Great's armor was its main pride. Belt amidships, 365 to 297 millimeters. At the ends, 254 to 203 millimeters. Breastwork, 365 millimeters. Turrets, 356 millimeters. Such armor made the ship practically invulnerable to the artillery of its time. The armor plates were attached to the hull, forming an overhang of 0.6 meters for partial protection against ramming attacks. Power plant, the heart of the giant. Initially, The ship was fitted with two horizontal three-cylinder steam engines, with a total power of 6,300 horsepower, manufactured at the Bird Works. Steam was provided by 8 cylindrical boilers. However, these engines proved unsatisfactory and did not achieve the designed power. This was one of the main problems to be solved. Chapter 5. Armament. Super cannons for a supership. The initial concept. 508 mm Tsar cannons. Initially, the project called for the installation of 4 cast-iron smoothbore 508 mm guns of the 1867 model. These were true monsters. Barrel length 5.5 meters, barrel weight 43.8 tons, shell weight 508 kilograms, achieving a velocity of 508 meters per second. Such guns were manufactured at the Perm Cannon Factory and even successfully passed tests. One of them was exhibited at the Vienna World's Fair in 1873 as a Tsar cannon, a sensible compromise. 305 mm rifled guns. However, by the time construction was completed, it became clear that the 508 mm guns were an anachronism. They were muzzle loaders, which by the 1870s was unacceptable. The naval leadership decided to replace them with the latest 305 mm rifled breech-loading guns of the 1867 model based on Krupp designs, the Obukhov Works, pride of Russian industry. In 1872, the St. Petersburg Obukhov Works manufactured Russia's first 305 mm gun. It was effectively a copy of the Krupp gun with slight modifications. The gun, not yet test-fired but distinguished by its excellent finish, was immediately sent to the Moscow Technical Exhibition and then to the Vienna World's Fair. Cole's turrets, a technological marvel. The 4 305 mm guns were placed in 2 rotating circular turrets of the Cole's system, with an internal diameter of 7.93 meters. Each turret weighed 360 tons and rotated on 26 steel cylindrical rollers. The time to rotate a turret through 360 degrees was just 1 minute. Turret hydraulics controlled the gun's recoil, counter-recoil, and vertical aiming. Ammunition and secondary armament shells weighing 290 kilograms, made of ordinary cast-iron armor-piercing shells, weighing 303 kilograms, made of hardened cast-iron canister shells, weighing 132. 7 kilograms. In addition to the main caliber, the ship had 6 87 mm guns, 2 Palmgren cartridge guns, and positions for 2 229 mm mortars. Chapter 6. The Long Road to the Water Launch. August 15, 1872. A solemn launching ceremony in the presence of the fleet's patron, Grand Duke Admiral General Konstantin Nikolaevich. By this time, 1,156,642 rubles had been spent on construction, and the hull of Peter the Great weighed 3,623 tons. The ship was launched, but it was only the beginning of a long journey. Problems with armor, forced import. Domestic factories could not cope with manufacturing the armor. Armor plates had to be ordered from the British firm Camel and Company. Irony of fate. The ship meant to confront the British fleet received British armor. However, the British fulfilled the order almost on time, with excellent quality and even cheaper than the Russian plates. Completion in Kronstadt. After launching, the ship was transferred to Kronstadt for completion. This stage of work caused significant difficulties and stretched over 2 years. Only in October 1874 did Peter the Great enter the Gulf of Finland for its first trials. Chapter 7. Trials and Adjustment. First trials. Disappointment. Trials began on October 2, 1874, and immediately revealed numerous problems. The ship could not be called a combat unit. It lacked gun turrets, part of its armor, masts, and many devices and mechanisms. After 12 days, the ship was sent to dock for completion and repairs. Second stage of trials, new problems. On July 2, 1875, the second stage of trials began. Again, repairs to the propellers were needed. Time was pressing, war with Turkey was looming, and the newest Ironclad was planned to be sent to reinforce the Mediterranean squadron. Third stage, final trials. On September 14, 1876, Peter the Great began its third series of sea trials. The results were discouraging. Speed was 1.5 knots below the contract requirement. Engine power was 1,300 horsepower less. Frequent breakdowns of mechanisms occurred. Fistulas and cracks appeared in the steam pipes. The voyage to the Mediterranean Sea had to be canceled. Acceptance into the Treasury. On October 2, 1876, after the main shortcomings were addressed, the Commission accepted the Ironclad Peter the Great into the Treasury. Its construction, dragged out over 6 years despite all the difficulties, proved to the world that the Russian Empire was capable of independently creating the world's most powerful warship. Chapter 8. First Years of Service. First Voyage. October 1876. Peter the Great made its first voyage across the Baltic Sea. Residents of several Russian ports were able to admire the world's most powerful warship. Taking part in this voyage was Lieutenant S.O. Makarov, the future famous admiral. Makarov's notes, quote, 28, in the Practical Squadron, quote, 29. Chapter 9. Modernization in England. Problems with the engines contract with a British firm. Modernization in Glasgow. Chapter 10. Peak of Service. Voyage Around Europe Assessment by Edward Reed. 10 Years in the Baltic. Chapter 11. Armament Modernization Installation of Mortars and Their Removal, quote, 36 Anti-Torpedo Boat Artillery, quote, 37 Boiler Replacement, quote, 38. Chapter 12. Decline of Combat Service Withdrawal from Active Fleet. Quote 39. Decision to convert into a training ship. Quote 40. Chapter 13. New Life. Training Ship. Major Reconstruction. Quote 41. New Armament. Quote 42. Gunnery Training Service. Quote 43. Chapter 14. World War I. Submarine Depot Ship. Quote 44. The Ice Voyage. Quote 45. Chapter 15. Soviet Period Disarmament and Reclassification. Quote 46. The 1924 Flood. Quote 47. Renamed Block Ship Number. 4. From 1932, the former battleship received a new designation, Block Ship Number 4. Its service as a floating warehouse and barracks continued for many years. Chapter 16. The Great Patriotic War in Besieged Leningrad. During the Great Patriotic War, the former battleship continued to serve as a floating base for the fleet's mine-laying forces. The ship survived bombings and shelling while in Kronstadt. Post-war years. After the war, Peter the Great became a floating barracks. Its strong hull, built in the 19th century, continued to serve, providing shelter for sailors of the Soviet fleet. Chapter 17. Final Years and End. Stricken from the Fleet List. April 18, 1959. After 90 years of service, since its keel laying, the ship was stricken from the lists of the Navy. The decision to scrap it was the logical conclusion of a long life. Scrapped for metal, 1959. The ship, which had served for over 80 years, was scrapped for metal in Kronstadt. Thus ended the history of Russia's first ironclad battleship, the ship that was once the most powerful in the world. Chapter 18. Legacy and Memory. USSR Postage Stamp. In 1972, on the 100th anniversary of the battleship's launch, the USSR Postal Service issued a series of postage stamps featuring Peter the Great. It was a tribute to the pioneering ship. In literature, in I. Likhstanov's novella, The Adventures of a Young Seaman, set in Kronstadt in 1925, the young sailor Viktor Leskov serves on a mine hulk which was previously the battleship Peter the Great. Thus, the ship entered literature. Models and blueprints. Peter the Great remains a popular subject for modelers. Blueprints of the ship have been preserved and accurate models are built from them, kept in museums and private collections. Successor, nuclear-powered missile cruiser. Today, the name Peter the Great is borne by the Project 1144 nuclear-powered missile cruiser, the flagship of Russia's Northern Fleet. The continuity of names is symbolic, like its predecessor. The modern Peter the Great is one of the most powerful ships in its class. Chapter 19. Historical Significance. Technological Breakthrough. Peter the Great was a technological breakthrough for Russian shipbuilding. It proved that Russia could build ships not inferior to, but surpassing the best foreign examples. The construction of such a ship became a school for an entire generation of Russian shipbuilders. Influence on fleet development. The experience gained during the construction of Peter the Great was used in the creation of subsequent Russian battleships. Design solutions worked out on this ship were applied in dozens of other projects. Symbol of Russian shipbuilding. Peter the Great became a symbol of the capabilities of Russian shipbuilding. Its history is a story of overcoming challenges, engineering ingenuity, and faith in one's own strength. The ship, built under difficult conditions, proved that Russia could create masterpieces of naval technology. Chapter 20. Epilogue. The ship and its era. Peter the Great in the context of its era. Peter the Great was a product of its time, an era of rapid technological development, an arms race, and national resurgence. It reflected all the contradictions and achievements of Russia in the second half of the 19th century. A fleet-long liver. The service of Peter the Great lasted over 80 years, from the era of steam engines to the atomic age. The ship survived several wars, revolutions, and changes in political systems. Its longevity is a testament to the quality of its construction and the robustness of its design. Lessons of history. The history of Peter the Great teaches us many things: the importance of technological independence, the value of engineering thought, the necessity of overcoming difficulties. It is the story not only of a ship, but of a country, a people. An era. Closing credits. Peter the Great, 1869 to 1959. Russia's first seagoing ironclad battleship, symbol of Russian shipbuilding, participant in 3 centuries of history. Key dates: May 20th, 1869. Keel laid August 15th, 1872. Launched October 2nd, 1876. Entered service 1881. Modernized in England 1908. Converted to training ship 1921. Reclassified as hulk April 18th, 1959. Stricken from fleet list. Length of service 90 years. From keel laying. Ships depart. But names remain. Peter the Great is not just the name of a ship. It is a symbol of Russian naval power, engineering genius, and unyielding will. From the first ironclad to the nuclear cruiser, the story continues. And as long as Russia exists, there will be ships bearing the name of Peter the Great.